Have you ever stopped to truly analyze the nature of power and influence, especially in the relentless pursuit of wealth and success? We often associate it with charisma, with dazzling speeches, with bold declarations, or with the magnetic pull of personality. We imagine entrepreneurs captivating investors with grand visions, or leaders inspiring devotion with fiery speeches. But what if this conventional understanding is merely a seductive illusion, a convenient narrative that distracts us from the brutal underlying truth? What if the true architects of enduring power, the masters of profound influence, operate from a realm far colder, far more detached, and infinitely more logical than we can conceive? In an era defined by economic anxiety and the relentless pursuit of more, many are trapped in a cycle of endless hustle, frantic competition, and fleeting trends. They chase volatile markets, desperately seek quick wins, or try to climb corporate ladders through sheer amiability. They pursue influence by striving to be liked, by engaging in constant emotional appeals, by conforming to popular opinion, or by seeking validation from the masses. They throw themselves into fleeting popularity contests, relying on short-term gains and avoiding any form of confrontation that might disrupt their carefully constructed image. Yet, despite their relentless efforts, they often find themselves manipulated, exploited, or ultimately failing to achieve any truly significant, lasting impact. They are caught in a relentless cycle of reactivity, forever dancing to the whims of market sentiment, consumer trends, or the expectations of others, never truly commanding their own destiny. What if the secrets to wielding genuine power, to orchestrating vast systems of wealth, and to commanding respect wasn't about charming the world, but about understanding its immutable, often unseen laws? What if it demanded a mindset that transcends fleeting emotions, a vision that stretches far beyond the horizon of immediate gratification, and a discipline so unyielding it borders on the ruthless? This video will not offer comfort. It will offer clarity. It will take an unflinching look at the strategic mind of a figure who built an empire of unparalleled scale, a man who, in his singular pursuit of order and efficiency, redefined the very concept of American industry. He accumulated vast wealth not through charisma or popular appeal, but through a cold, methodical precision that others often mistook for simple greed, but was, in fact, a profound, almost philosophical approach to power itself. Through the unspoken rules of this master strategist, you will discover how true influence operates beneath the surface, how to detach from emotional noise in a volatile economy, and how to become a formidable force in your own life and in the world around you. Are you ready to abandon the conventional wisdom of popularity and embrace the cold logic that truly dictates who gains and holds influence and builds enduring wealth? Because this journey into the heart of strategic power begins now. The common approaches to gaining power and influence, particularly in the realm of economic pursuit, are often rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of human nature and systemic operations. We are conditioned from a young age to believe that to succeed, we must constantly strive for external validation. This manifests in professional life as the relentless pursuit of promotions driven by pleasing superiors, or in business as chasing market fads for short-term profits. We see charismatic figures rise to prominence and mistakenly believe that their magnetism is the sole source of their power, prompting us to emulate their superficial charm or imitate their public persona. This reliance on emotional appeals, on short-term popularity contests, on avoiding any form of disagreement or confrontation that might risk our standing, might garner fleeting attention or temporary gains, but it rarely builds anything of lasting substance or true, unshakable power. Consider the entrepreneur who launches product after product based on fleeting trends, always adapting to what's popular, never establishing a deep, foundational market presence. Or the investor who makes decisions based on gut feelings and market hype, rather than rigorous data analysis, oscillating between euphoria and panic. While they might experience bursts of activity, or even some initial success, they often find themselves exhausted, financially vulnerable, and ultimately unable to drive significant systemic change or gain genuine, enduring influence. Their perceived power is derived from their agreeableness, their reactivity to external stimuli, making them easily manipulated by market sentiment or the demands of competitors. They are constantly chasing, constantly reacting, rarely commanding. The problem lies in this pervasive reliance on external approval and emotional reactivity. When your actions are driven by the need to be liked, when your decisions are swayed by the immediate emotional temperature of a market, a negotiation, or a social dynamic, you become profoundly predictable. Predictability in the strategic game of power and influence is a profound weakness. It allows others to anticipate your moves, exploit your vulnerabilities, and ultimately dictate the terms of engagement. True power, the kind that endures and shapes entire realities, industrial, financial, or social, operates on a different wavelength entirely. It's a game played with foresight, with an acute understanding of systemic weaknesses, and with a detached, almost scientific approach to human behavior. Real influence is not about shouting the loudest. It's about understanding the silent, immutable mechanisms of the levers you wish to pull. It operates not on a superficial level of fleeting charisma, but on a deep, almost invisible understanding of cause and effect, of incentives and vulnerabilities that underpin all human systems. The common pursuit of power often fails, precisely because it's a futile attempt to win a short-term popularity contest, never grasping that the real game is played with a cold, unwavering logic, far from the madding crowd of emotions and superficial trends. No figure in modern history, particularly in the unforgiving crucible of American capitalism, embodied this cold logic of power more completely than John D. Rockefeller. He didn't build his colossal Standard Oil empire with dazzling public speeches or a charming, magnetic public persona. In fact, he was often described as quiet, reserved, and almost painfully shy, a man who preferred the silent calculations of his ledger books to the roar of the crowd. His immense influence stemmed not from charisma, but from an unparalleled, almost obsessive application of methodical precision and detached strategic thinking. He was an architect of vast systems, seeing entire industries not as chaotic collections of individual enterprises, but as vast interconnected machines to be relentlessly optimized, consolidated, and controlled. Rockefeller's primary strategy was built on an uncompromising commitment to ruthless efficiency and systematic consolidation. He was not merely interested in profit. He was consumed by the elimination of waste, and the relentless perfection of every single process. As Ron Chernow meticulously details in his definitive biography, Titan, The Life of John D. Rockefeller Sr., the early days of his oil empire were characterized by an almost fanatical attention to granular detail. He once, famously, ordered that the exact number of drops of solder used to seal a barrel be measured and standardized. When a cost analyst identified a minuscule saving by reducing that number by one drop, Rockefeller implemented it without hesitation, understanding that saving a mere fraction of a cent per barrel would translate into millions over the sheer volume of Standard Oil's operations. This wasn't merely extreme frugality. It was a profound, almost spiritual, understanding that absolute control over minute details translates directly and inevitably into systemic power. His relentless drive to consolidate the chaotic and notoriously volatile oil industry, often through aggressive and controversial means, was not simply about crude greed. It was driven by an unshakable belief in the absolute necessity of order, stability, and unparalleled efficiency to bring predictability to a wild, unpredictable market. He viewed untrammeled competition as inherently wasteful, irrational, and ultimately self-destructive, and consolidation as the only logical path to progress. This almost terrifying methodical precision was always paired with an extraordinary long-term vision and unwavering patience. Rockefeller understood instinctively that true power is not built overnight. It does not yield to impulsive decisions or the emotional roller coaster of short-term market fluctuations. He was famously willing to endure immediate financial losses, intense public criticism, and prolonged legal battles if it served his ultimate, meticulously planned and decade-spanning goal. He famously stated, "I would rather earn 1% off of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own." While the exact origin of this quote and its precise wording can be debated, the core principle behind it is abundantly clear and evident throughout his life and business strategies outlined in his own autobiography, Random Reminiscences of Men and Events. This philosophy highlights his singular genius for leveraging vast systems and orchestrating the collective, cumulative efforts of countless others, rather than relying solely on the finite output of his individual labor or intellect. He possessed the almost unique ability to zoom out, to see the vastness of the enterprise, understanding that widespread, incremental gains from a perfectly controlled and efficient system would, with mathematical certainty, inevitably lead to unparalleled wealth and unassailable influence. This almost inhuman capacity to play the absolute long game, to resist the impulsive chase for immediate gratification, and to calmly weather fleeting storms, is a defining hallmark of true strategic mastery. Perhaps most critically, Rockefeller possessed an almost superhuman emotional detachment and unwavering objectivity. He viewed business, and by extension, human interaction, as fundamentally a game of logic, where emotions were dangerous liabilities that clouded judgment and distorted perception. Accounts from Titan often describe him remaining utterly calm, impassive, and unreadable in the face of intense market pressures, fierce, often brutal, competition, or scathing public criticism. He possessed an almost eerie ability to separate himself from personal feelings, assessing situations with an almost scientific coldness, making decisions based purely on objective data, strategic leverage, and systemic advantage. This profound detachment allowed him to avoid the insidious pitfalls of pride, anger, sentimentality, and fear that so often derail lesser minds and disrupt even the most brilliant strategies. He didn't make emotional enemies. He simply made calculated, strategic decisions. This capacity for dispassionate, almost robotic analysis is a core component of cold logic, the singular ability to see things as they are, stripped bare of all emotional bias and personal prejudice, and to act accordingly, always moving towards the predetermined objective. So, how do you cultivate these Rockefeller-esque principles? How do you learn to navigate the relentless currents of the modern world with cold logic and exert influence not through fleeting charm, but through profound strategic understanding? It begins with a fundamental, often uncomfortable, reorientation of your mindset, transforming you from a reactive player in life's games to a proactive, formidable strategist. The first principle is data-driven decision-making over impulse or emotion. Rockefeller's early days were characterized by an almost fanatical adherence to meticulous record-keeping. He knew every barrel of oil, every shipment, every cost, every competitive advantage. He made decisions based on verifiable facts, on irrefutable data, not on hunches, market sentiment, or personal feelings. In your own life, this means stop relying on vague feelings about what's right or what should happen. Instead, become an analyst of your own existence. Analyze the actual inputs and outputs of your choices. If a particular relationship consistently drains your energy without reciprocation, the objective data, your emotional state, time invested, lack of return, suggests a problem, regardless of how you feel about the person. In your career or personal finance, ruthlessly track your results, not just your efforts. This disciplined approach, though seemingly tedious, forms the unshakable bedrock of strategic clarity. You become an objective analyst of your own life, systematically identifying inefficiencies, anticipating challenges, and leveraging opportunities with surgical precision. Next, adopt the principle of strategic consolidation. Eliminate waste, amplify focus. Just as Rockefeller systematically consolidated the chaotic, fragmented oil industry into a singular, cohesive entity, you must consolidate your personal and professional efforts. Ruthlessly eliminate anything that dilutes your energy, distracts your focus, or doesn't contribute directly to your core objectives. This includes time sinks, endless social media scrolling, unproductive meetings, idle gossip, or commitments that don't serve your purpose. Energy drains, relationships that consistently take without giving, unresolved conflicts that fester, or self-sabotaging habits that deplete your inner resources. Scattered efforts, the seductive trap of trying to pursue too many disparate goals at once, leading to mediocrity across the board. As his autobiography, Random Reminiscences of Men and Events, reveals, Rockefeller was meticulously obsessive about efficiency in all aspects of his life, personal and business. Apply this level of scrutiny to your habits, your environment, and your relationships. By systematically eliminating the waste in your life, you free up immense, concentrated energy and invaluable resources to focus intensely, almost monomaniacally, on what truly matters, thereby building concentrated, unassailable power. Cultivate calculated risk and unwavering resilience. Rockefeller was not reckless, but he possessed an extraordinary willingness to take enormous, calculated risks, especially when he identified a long-term strategic advantage that others were too short-sighted or fearful to grasp. More importantly, his resilience in the face of adversity was legendary. Setbacks were never viewed as failures or personal defeats. They were dispassionately analyzed as mere data points, invaluable opportunities to learn, adapt, and refine his approach. The often quoted adage, "The way to make money is to buy when blood is running in the streets," while perhaps apocryphal, perfectly encapsulates his willingness to act boldly and decisively when others are paralyzed by fear, to see profound opportunity in the midst of crisis. In your life, this means, instead of instinctively fearing failure, view it as rapid, crucial feedback. Understand that true strength isn't about avoiding falls or eliminating mistakes, but about mastering the painful, disciplined art of rising every single time, learning from each impact, and refining your strategy for the next inevitable challenge. This requires cultivating profound emotional detachment from the immediate outcome, focusing instead on the long-term process and the invaluable lessons gleaned from every experience. Finally, master the power of silence and discretion. Rockefeller was notoriously private and rarely spoke publicly about his strategic moves until they were accomplished facts. His deliberate silence often confused competitors, maintained an impenetrable aura of unreadability, and allowed him to execute complex plans without interference. In an age of performative vulnerability and constant oversharing, where every thought, every emotion, every decision is broadcast to the world, strategic silence can be an incredibly powerful, almost subversive tool. It allows you to observe without reacting, to listen far more than you speak, to gather critical information without revealing your own hand or your true intentions. Control perception. What is deliberately withheld can, paradoxically, be far more powerful and intriguing than what is immediately revealed. You become an enigma, a mystery not easily deciphered or manipulated by others. Preserve energy. To avoid pointless arguments, draining emotional debates, or unnecessary explanations that only serve to deplete your focus and vitality. This cultivated discretion, vividly illustrated through various anecdotes in Titan, contributed immensely to his unparalleled ability to execute complex, multi-layered strategies without interference or premature exposure. In your own life, this means choosing your words with surgical precision, knowing precisely when to withhold information, and mastering the profound art of strategic non-reaction, especially in emotionally charged situations where others expect an immediate response. When you learn to apply the cold logic of power, when you systematically cultivate these unspoken rules of influence, something profound begins to happen. You don't just gain external advantages or material wealth. You forge an entirely new relationship with power itself, one rooted in unshakable authenticity and unassailable inner command. By adopting this methodical approach, you transform your interaction with the world. You become less reactive, less susceptible to the emotional manipulation that traps so many. Your decisions are no longer swayed by fleeting fear, by subconscious guilt, or by the desperate, insatiable need for external approval. Instead, they are driven by crystalline clear objectives, verifiable data, and a deep, dispassionate understanding of underlying dynamics. This profound shift makes you incredibly difficult to control, because you are no longer playing by the emotional rules that others instinctively exploit. You cease to be a pawn in the games orchestrated by others and, instead, emerge as a master strategist of your own life. This cultivated objectivity allows you to see people not just as friends or foes, but as complex systems, with predictable motivations and exploitable vulnerabilities. You learn to discern hidden agendas, to anticipate reactions before they occur, and to navigate complex social, professional, and financial landscapes with surgical precision. This is not about crude exploitation of others. It's about safeguarding yourself, making objective decisions, and achieving your grandest goals through genuine understanding and highly effective action. True influence, born from cold logic, is not about being liked by everyone. It's about being respected, being effective, and becoming utterly indispensable. Your presence begins to command attention not through outward charisma or loud declarations, but through an aura of quiet competence, unwavering resolve, and profound self-possession. You become a leader by demonstrating consistent, measurable results, by making clear, unemotional decisions, and by embodying a quiet, formidable strength that inspires confidence and deters manipulation. This is the ultimate influence, a power that stems from within, transforming you into the architect of your own destiny, capable of sculpting your reality with deliberate, unyielding intent. The journey to embrace the cold logic of power, to adopt Rockefeller's unspoken rules of influence, is an invitation to profound self-mastery and unparalleled strategic effectiveness. It demands a rigorous discipline, a willingness to shed emotional baggage, and an unyielding commitment to objective truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. By cultivating ruthless efficiency, an expansive long-term vision, unwavering emotional detachment, and profound strategic discretion, you transform your deepest vulnerabilities into formidable strengths, your reactive impulses into deliberate, conscious actions, and your grandest aspirations into tangible, achieved realities. You move decisively, from being swept away by external forces to becoming the conscious commander of your own life and the situations within it. This is your path to an unshakable mind, built not on wishful thinking but on solid, cold logic. For a deeper dive into John D. Rockefeller's principles of power and influence, explore his own reflections in Reminiscences of Men and Events, which offers direct insights into his disciplined mind and strategic approach. And for a comprehensive, unflinching look at his controversial, yet profoundly effective strategies and their immense historical impact, delve into Ron Chernow's definitive biography, Titan: The Life of John D. Rockefeller Sr. These books are not just histories. They are masterclasses in strategy, the relentless pursuit of power, and the art of shaping reality. Comment below. Share how this reflection touched you. I read every comment attentively, and rest assured someone will recognize themselves in your experience. This exchange is powerful, and if this journey has made sense to you, I invite you to continue. The next video is important, very important, and it will delve even deeper into this conversation we started here. Subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and above all, don't stop now. You've already taken the first step. Keep going because this path is yours.